Greetings, I'm Tieesha at Six back with another great video. I'm joined by our favorite brother, Willie Cartwright, author of From Saved to Sane, My Journey Away from Christianity and Is Christianity Detrimental to the African American Community. How are you doing today?
I am awesome. How are you?
I am hanging in there. Is it as windy in your area as it is here? Like I have house plants falling out the window and I have the blinds
No,
moving as if this is a haunted house.
no, it was pretty windy the other day, but I think I'm further. I'm in a good spot. We're
Mhm.
further north than you are, so you're getting the soon to be storm coming, but it's like
Yes.
below Atlanta. So you're below Atlanta. I'm east. I'm just I guess I'm just east of Atlanta.
Okay.
So we're kind of in a nice isolated area. We don't get the storms from north, and then the south kind of isolate us. So I'm good. It's pretty warm. It's about 80 degrees, and the sun is still
Yes.
out.
It
So
was
the sun's still out.
87. It was
Yeah.
87. So shout out to everybody who's joining us tonight, who's joining us live. I see we have Shalandria and we also have Will Cashgrow. Greetings to y'all and greetings to everyone that is going to join us later on or during the live stream, but also those who are going to watch the replay. And if you were with us the week before last, we were talking about just debunking different things in the Bible according to science. Now this week we're going to also hit on some science. We're going to also talk about historical fact. A lot of people tend to use the Bible as like, okay, this is a real historic document, and it's not that at all. And I learned a new term. It's not historical fact, it's just interpreted history, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And I think that this topic today is important because, for one, believers like to try to use, they like to try to say that this is history, therefore it's true, therefore we should believe it. We should be believing it. That's number one. And then a second thing is that obviously it's not historical evidence. It's not historically accurate. It's not historically true. I always see these memes with people saying, notice if you go to a museum, you never see anything from the Bible in a museum because the museums are about things that are factual, real, real evidence. But I think the second thing, and I think more importantly than everything, is uh, religion is the only thing that we take on faith. Everything else we believe we require evidence of. And so you can't use the Bible as evidence of the Bible. That's called a circular argument. So I can't use the Bible to prove the Bible. So if I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
believe this thing, then I need to see some corroborated scientific or archaeological, unbiased, non-biblical evidence of many of the things, what I always say, the major events or characters from the Bible. And I studied this and I wrote about this in the book. And anytime I talk about this, I said there is zero to very little actual corroborated archaeological, historical evidence of any of the major events or major characters in the Bible. And we're going to touch on some of that stuff today as we go along. But I think it's important, for us, I talk all the time about us being free thinkers, us being critical thinkers, and that goes for everything, every organization that you're a part of, every aspect of your life, and especially this thing we call religion, because it's so important. It plays such a huge role in our life. And for us just to go on and say, well, I believe because I believe in faith. Well, you can use that for everything. I can say I believe in the spaghetti God because I take it on faith. There's as much evidence for the spaghetti God as it is for this, Abrahamic God. Right? So
Yeah.
we have to be careful, and if we really want to be critical thinkers and critical thought and really understand what we're doing, we need to sit back and analyze and say, okay, where is the evidence for what I believe in and for what the Bible says? Um, and so I get into all kind of discussions, and I think the people that I get in discussions with, the believers, they range from everything from those who say, I don't care what you're saying, everything the Bible is true. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
snakes talk, donkeys fly, God created the earth in 6 days, blah, blah, blah. All the way to the other end of the spectrum where people say, well, a lot of the Bible is metaphoric or is an analogy,
Allegory, all that.
allegory. So I get every argument everywhere in
It's
between.
alchemy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important that we talk about what real evidence is out there for those of us who really want to be critical thinkers about this thing we call religion. And for those who are on with us live, please send us your questions and your comments. Somebody said, I just purchased you. Thank you so much. Who is that? I can't even read that.
That is pestilent heretic.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I couldn't even say that. Thank you. I need to get more. I need to get better glasses. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. He said, I'm on page 50 and I had to force myself to stop. I'm in the money chapter. There you go. There you go. Really appreciate that. It is a quick read. It's an easy read. It's a quick read. I've had people who say that, usually it takes them a while to read a book, but they get my book and they can't put it down and they get through with it and they love it. So I am really happy about that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Question for you, like I love how you said it was a circular argument, because at one point in time I was like, you know what, the Bible is the only book that I need, and the Bible is the truth. It's the living truth, the living word of God. I didn't want to read anything else that challenged my belief system. And there's different things I hear some people say. Like, they'll say, yes, well, let me think about this one. So yeah, they'll say like, yeah, I know that there's evidence of the Big Bang Theory, but I still believe in the creation. I still believe in that. It's like they just throttle the fence and don't want to challenge their thoughts. And another, perspective I guess at times is when I say like, you know what, I left religion. I'm out of organized religion. I don't want to read the Bible. I really don't. I'm kind of over it. I'm through with it. Then I'll get, some people like, they may identify as the Hebrew Israelites, or, our brothers and sisters over there. And they'll say, read it again, because the Bible is the true history of Black peoples, my sister. What do you have to say about that when people say like, well, no, it's the true history of us. We need to read it and study it. It's the 12 tribes of us.
Well, let's break this down. So the philosophy or theory with Hebrew Israelites, and I have one of my best friends in the world, grew up with, high school buddy, really close friend. He's a Hebrew Israelite. Also, I think my wife's cousin has one too. So the theory behind what they're talking about is this: they believe that we're the original Jews, therefore we're the original people, therefore we are in the condition that we are collectively as African Americans because we strayed, we disobeyed God, and this is some kind of punishment, divine punishment from Him. So if we look at the evidence, first of all, we understand that the original Jews, the people that we see today, are not the original Jews. That I will 100% agree with Hebrew Israelites. Those are basically European Jews. There are two groups two major groups of European Jews that we see now, and I can't even pronounce, I forgot how to pronounce the name of both of them, but it's two groups. That's who we kind of see now. But the original Jews were obviously people of color, and they were from the northeast region of Africa. Remember, northeast region of Africa. Almost all of our descendants, us here in the United States, our ancestors from Africa were from West and Central Africa. That's factual. So to say, and then also, if you look at the evidence and do the research, there is no DNA archaeological evidence of any of us being descendants of any original people in that region. So to say just because there were people of color that were the original Jews, therefore, i.e., it must be us because we are no longer there, we're here. Also, people, Hebrew Israelites, read the Bible and they interpret certain things, bondage, being enslaved. And they ask the question, well, who else is that? That's us. It's got to be us because we're the ones. I mean, that's selective, subjective interpretation of Scripture. So to say that we're the original Jews because of that region and because we're from Africa is like saying, it's even worse than this, but it's like saying, okay, there are a group of people in Mexico City, but my parents are from Ontario, Canada. So because it's the same continent, we all must be descendants of those people from Mexico City, Mexico, right? So Africa is large, the second largest continent, depending on what you're looking at, land or people geographically. It's 50. There are 54 countries in Africa. There were so many different religions and spiritual practices done prior to the slave trade. For you to just drill down and say, okay, we all are descendants of the original Hebrew Israel, I mean original Israelites, it's just crazy to me. Um, you can't argue with them because they get they get they get hysterical. They
Kareem,
figure
he know
they
about
think
that.
the
He
loud. Oh yeah,
documents that.
yeah, I've seen it. They think the louder they talk, and they coming from the Bible. First of all, you have to tell people this: if you're not a believer, then telling me that telling me what's in the Bible is factual means nothing to me
Mhm.
because I don't believe that. It's just like
Yes,
it's like you being a lover of Harry Potter and you telling me, well, Harry Potter says, I don't give a flying freak what Harry Potter says. I don't
right,
believe that. So you telling me that this is in the Bible don't make it any truer for me to, it doesn't make it factual because you're
right.
saying it's from the Bible. So yeah, so that's one of those things that our people, I mean, they go in and they know the Bible inside and out and they do selective interpretation and all of that. So yeah, we just have to be careful with that until they come up with DNA proof showing that our people are descendants of the original Jews. Then I'll believe it. But until then, and they don't have any of that. They haven't had that. That information, that evidence does not exist.
Wonderful. And when you say historical fact, in your book, on page 30, you begin telling us about, how this concept of Caesar Borgia was, created. And that's, to me, when I think of history in the Bible, history and religion, that's the only date that comes to mind when this concept was created. This concept of white supremacy was created, and it was put into force and spread around the world. What do you have to say about that, as far as like the Bible and timelines, mirroring that on actual, you know history and our and timeline of the world?
Yeah, first of all, there are no actual dates in the Bible. It's not, this happened in, 36 AD. There are historians that try to date stuff back based on what the Bible say because any like every piece of mythology has some real stuff to it, right? So if the Bible talks about Nero, Nero was a real person, but that doesn't make the Bible real. It's just like any other piece of mythology you read. It's going to be even if you read something like Batman, right? Gotham City, he talks about New York City or stuff happening in this city or that city or some time frame or whatever. So that's the thing. So if you look at, let's start with the Council of Nicaea. And those of you familiar with the Council of Nicaea, the Council of Nicaea was a series of, it was one of 4 or 5 councils that took place in the 300s. The Council of Nicaea was 325 AD. Constantine, uh, basically, at the time, was at war with another group or country or whatever, and he had a dream that he won the war, but on the front of the clothing that they were wearing, warriors, it was a cross. So he took this to mean that everybody in Rome should become Christian. And at the time, there were many, many different religions. Christianity at the time was a small kind of cult, so to speak. So Constantine brought all of the bishops together. And in the Council of Nicaea, one of the things that they decided on, which I think is probably the most important thing, it was a number of things that they came to grips with. But the most important thing that they all kind of decided on was, okay, where do we place this Jesus? Do we say that he always existed? Do we say that he was just human and it died but did some miraculous stuff? Or exactly, so where do we put him? So they all decided, not all, but the majority, because a couple of people dissented, but the majority said, well, let's make him part of this Trinity. Let's create this Godhead, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. So that's where you get your Trinity from. Um, and then later on, they started painting pictures using Caesar Borgia as the model, and that's how you get the the blue-eyed, blonde hair Jesus. But understanding the history of the council, and it was, like I said, it was four other councils, but the Council of Nicaea is important because of the Trinity and how we got Jesus and the Trinity. And so that's something that anybody out there who are Christians, you should really research that. I think one of the things that's frustrating is that how little Christians go outside of the Bible to actually study the history of their religion, where it came from, because it was pagan, all of the pagan characteristics that's part of the religion, all of the things that was never really Christian, how they all became, how you got heaven and hell, where that stuff came from. I mean, it's so much out there, but a lot of times most Christians just read the Bible and take it at face value and say, okay, this is what it is. And when there are questions or shortcomings, they just don't ask the questions, or they're afraid to ask the questions. Or if they ask the questions, they get a, not the right answer or a simple answer to kind of placate them, and they go on about their business. But that's something that's important when we talk about that. And so, are there any questions before do we have any questions here?
Let's see. We have some comments from Lynn. No one can argue that the Bible is the one book that can explain our current condition, our experience in slavery, even the problems that befall us as outlined in Deuteronomy 28.
Lynn, I would challenge you to show me proof that that's talking about us, African Americans, here in this country. I mean, I know you can read it and we can interpret it. You can interpret it as being such. So here's the two questions that I have about that. If you're talking about us suffering for 400 years, here's my first question. If we left or disobeyed God 2,000 years ago, why did our suffering start many generations later? And why is it that our ancestors who didn't actually do the leaving or forsaking God, but why is it that they're the ones that had to suffer? That's the first question. Also, when Christians talk about this suffering, it's supposed to be a 400-year period. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times they'll judge it from, okay, we came over here as slaves 1611. 1619. So basically, our suffering and everything should have been over in 2019. So we're in 2022 and we're still experiencing many of the same things that we've always experienced, especially in the last 10, 15, 20 years. So to you, Lynn, that's two questions that I would ask you. Why is it that many generations later, we're the ones, our ancestors are the ones who had to pay and to suffer for what people 2,000 years prior to them did? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And explain to me this whole 40 years and why we're still going through what we're going through if it was supposed to only be 400 years.
One thing that you also mentioned as well is like the characters of the Bible. Like, okay, in museums, you have evidence of things, what is it? Shoot. It just passed my mind. But we can date, different things that we find in the earth, in the crust, the artifacts left behind based on the people that were here. However, as many things that we found, discovered in the ocean, nothing pertaining to the Bible has been found, and it's not fact. And that's one thing I used to see watching a show called Unsolved Mysteries. Every now and again, you'll see a segment where they say there's been someone who claimed they found evidence of Noah's Ark and stuff like that, and it's like, no, it's not, because it did not exist. Can you talk about that? How they're still pulling out, kings and queens out of tombs in Egypt, but no one has found anybody mentioned from the Bible.
Yeah. So here's the thing that we need to understand. The Roman people of that time period, and especially the Egyptian people of that time period, kept meticulous records, right? There were no less than 200 historians in that region during Jesus's time, biblical time, right? There is zero contemporaneous writings of Jesus and the things that happened during his resurrection, during the time he was here on earth. Zero. The Egyptians didn't write about it. The Romans, from a contemporary, when I say contemporaneous, that means while it was going on. But yet they wrote about everything else. If you go to Egypt, there is nothing in the tombs, in the caves, any kind of writings about Jesus Christ. Absolutely zero, nothing whatsoever. So you're going to tell me that a person who's supposed to be the greatest person to walk the face of this earth and did the things that Jesus supposedly did, uh, fed so many people, raised people from the dead, all of this stuff that no one wrote about it. Not one person during that time frame sat down and wrote about it. So what you do have that most Christians point to as non-biblical evidence of Jesus and other things. First of all, let's understand again that there is no archaeological evidence of the most important events in the Bible. Before we get to the people, before we get to the characters, let's address the events. There is zero evidence of the most important events in the Bible. So let's begin with the Exodus story. There is zero. If you go to Egypt and you look at the cave, the writings, there is zero writings about an Exodus. And remember, the Bible says there was about 600,000 people that exited Egypt at that time. If you add, that's just soldiers. If you add wives and kids, it's easily 1.2 million or whatever. Egypt at the time probably had somewhere around 2 to 3 million people. So you're talking about a third to a half of the people in that region leaving. And you mean to tell me that no one wrote, it was not written about anywhere? Secondly, there is scientists and historians have studied the bottom of the Red Sea. There is absolutely zero evidence of anything resembling what would have occurred during the Exodus story in the bottom of the Red Sea. Same thing for Noah's Ark, all of this stuff. So then we get to the characters. So when Christians talk about non-biblical evidence for Jesus Christ, for example, they usually cite two people, Tacitus and Josephus, right? Neither one of these individuals lived during the time that Jesus lived. That's the first thing. Let's get that straight. Josephus was born in 37 AD, which would have been 4 years after Jesus supposedly died, right? Tacitus was born in 55 AD. So even in their writings, the earliest writings from Josephus about Jesus was in somewhere in 90, 92 AD. So you're talking almost 60 years after Jesus supposedly died. And so the information that he got was hearsay from somebody else, And he only wrote about Jesus twice in all of his writings. The first one was he mentioned James was supposed to be Jesus' brother, blah, blah, blah. Most historians say that writing is authentic, not the facts about it, but that the writing, that it was Josephus who wrote what he wrote. But the second writing is a lot longer, and he talks about Jesus and Christians or whatever. A lot of historians believe that is fraudulent. So there's conflict about that. Tacitus, again, born 20 some years after Jesus was born, wrote about Jesus in relationship with Nero and some other stuff. Again, no firsthand writings, no firsthand knowledge. There is nothing from the apostles or anybody that actually supposedly walk with Jesus. You're going to tell me, if I'm walking with the greatest person to ever live on this earth, and I see this person doing all kind of things, you mean to tell me I'm not going to sit down and write this down somewhere? I just saw this man walk on water. I just saw this man raise someone from the dead. So we have to think about that. And then finally, let's look at the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus and what supposedly had happened. So we do understand that according to the Bible, I think there were supposed to be earthquakes when Jesus died, right? Or was it when he was resurrected? One or the other. It's supposed to be. First of all, it was 3 hours of darkness in the middle of the day. There is nowhere where that's recorded in actual history from any country or civilization or whatever. No one wrote about that. There were supposed to have been earthquakes during that time period. There was no writing, no historical evidence of that ever happening. during that particular time. And then the final thing, which I think is also probably the most unbelievable, is that people got up out of the grave and walked around. So you had a bunch of walking dead from these people who was raised out of their graves, who was supposed to go into heaven with Jesus ascending into heaven. Now you mean to tell me that if someone saw that, they wrote about everything else, even minute, unimportant stuff, that someone didn't say, you know what, I cannot believe what just happened. I just saw people getting up out of the grave and ascending to heaven. So we have zero proof of these events happening. And again, I ask people, do your research, look at this stuff, and tell me, does this stuff really make sense? And we don't have any information, any proof of these things. Papa Soul Searcher, believers will ask softball questions to another believer, hoping to get talked out of the question that they asked. It is, it is, when you begin with confirmation bias, meaning that you've already predetermined what you believe, and you're just looking for anything to confirm your belief, you will take anything and twist it so that it makes sense to you, so that it confirms your belief. But when you begin with the end in mind, saying, okay, you already beginning the research, so to speak, believing that this God or this Jesus exists. So it's already flawed. So now you're searching for things to confirm what you already believe. And so when I get into a discussion with people about science versus religion, they say, well, science do the same thing. I said, no. Science begins with a blank slate, and they take all of the evidence and they go where the evidence leads. Unlike religion begins with, okay, this is what we believe, so let's find the evidence to support what we believe. And if the evidence doesn't necessarily fit, let's find a way to make it fit.
Right.
So, yeah.
Will Cashgrow, he mentioned someone named Walter Williams. Are you familiar with that name?
Yeah.
Okay, that is new to me. So I found a playlist on YouTube where he says like Walter Williams says exactly, no bones or anything in the dominant society keep records of everything they find and no evidence at all.
He's absolutely right. It's nothing. I mean, not only we're talking about Jesus, we're talking about Abraham, we're talking about Moses. I mean, if you talk to rabbis, they would tell you that Moses was a fictional character. They'll tell you right that, and so Christianity is actually an offshoot of Judaism. That without Judaism, it would be no Christianity. So I mean, Jesus supposedly, if he lived, he was Jewish. So how are you going to tell people who started this that they don't know what they're talking about because you came along, Johnny come lately, and created kind of your own thing, right? So when what's the other question?
We have
Go ahead.
I know, go right ahead. I'm not sure which one you were reading.
No,
but,
I'm looking at the one right before Will. It said, when will man allow his God to speak for himself? Bro, I say this all the time. I ask people all the time. They get defensive. They want to fight with me. They want to argue with me. I said, listen, as somebody asked me the other day, they said, what would it take for you to be a believer? What would God have to do to make you a believer? I said, you know what? If your God is everything that you believe he is, he would know what it would take to make me a believer. So, stop fighting this battle for your God and let your God speak. So, yeah, so I agree. And what was the next one? I think he was going to say one.
I jumped somewhere. I forgot.
Was it? I think it was Will. I think it was the next one right up under that. Most people don't leave their religion square.
There we go. This one.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Will, I think, and this is me. I don't want to make excuses for it, but I think what happens is that when we're indoctrinated into this faith and religion, it becomes very comfortable. It becomes very comfortable for us. We don't have to be accountable. We blame everything on the devil. It keeps us humble and docile because we give this external God, all the credit for everything that happens in life that's good, but then he gets none of the blame. But it's really uncomfortable to scratch beneath the surface. It's really uncomfortable to ask the questions because that will throw a person's entire life off. Because remember, most people who are really devout, religious, devout Christians or whatever, everything that they do, their entire life is built around this belief system. So going back, I think somebody said earlier, and I think Tieesha might have been you. We talked about it earlier. When people talk about evolution and creation, now evolution is a worldwide accepted, most plausible theory as to how we got here. Evolution, natural selection. It is what's taught in science books, is what's taught in all the universities and colleges and most high schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think a lot of Christians, they look at it and say, it doesn't make sense. This whole created in 6 days, the whole creation story. And besides, there are issues with the story. I mean, the creation story is written at least twice in Genesis, and if you read both versions side by side, there are some discretions as to what happened on this day, what happened on this day. So that in itself is a problem. But Christians have a hard time believing, because here's the thing: if they concede that evolution is right and not creation, then you start tearing down the foundation of their belief system. Because remember, without creation, you don't get the original sin. And without the original sin, you don't get a need for Jesus Christ. And if you don't have a need for Jesus Christ, then you don't have a virgin birth, a crucifixion as and a resurrection. And we wouldn't be celebrating Easter in a few weeks. So
That's gonna be a good program.
that's gonna be a good one. Yeah, we're gonna
we
talk
got
about
something
that
good
one.
in store.
Yeah. So you start pulling back the onion. You start peeling back the onion. It's okay. Well, if I concede this as not being factual, then this is going to tear down this, and this is going to tear down this. So a lot of them stay. So a lot of them say, okay, I'm not going to believe evolution. I'm going to stick with creation. And then you have those who say, okay, I'll concede, but they fix it to where God is still responsible for evolution, right? And so they find all kind of ways to twist and turn it, all which way. So, it just depends. But again, it's really about people doing their research, especially researching outside of the Bible, understanding, there are plenty of books out there that tell you that gives you a non-biased story of how religion came to be, and especially including Christianity. I mean, it's non-biased. It's just straight down the middle. This is what happened. This is how we got to where we are now with religion. And people won't even read the basic stuff. What else we got here?
Lynn had brought up. I had asked Lynn if she could present like which scriptures, which book she's referencing says some things in the Bible may be meant to be interpreted metaphorically. However, the proof of who we are is smack dab in the Bible. So I just asked where. I think that we talked about that already, but it's like, okay, exactly where?
Yeah, and so I see another comment from listen. Some things in the Bible may
Yes.
be meant to be interpreted metaphorically. However, the proof of who we are is smack dab in the Bible. Okay, again, as Tieesha just said, where's the proof? And so let me go back before we even ask that. If you concede that some things in the Bible are meant to be metaphorical, what are those things that you believe are meant to be metaphorical? And how do you make that determination? And how far do you go? And where do you stop?
Exactly, because like with certain things, there's a disclaimer. It's a disclaimer, like this is based on a true story. This is taken from or inspired by actual events, or this right here, do not attempt at home. So it's like, okay, where's the disclaimers that tell us this? And there's none. It's like it's left up to your imagination. The key word is believe. Like if you can believe it, you can create it and run wild with it. And it's not. It's like, okay, if you're going to apply it to yourself, if the book of Ruth applies to you, if the story of Ruth applies to you, then go ahead. If Malachi, if you identify with that, that's on you. But it's like, that's not my belief. That's not blank. That's not what it was supposed to do. But if you're inspired by that story, if you're inspired by it, that's all you. But it doesn't apply. It's not fact.
So let me answer a couple of questions that Lynn has commented. Let me start with the second one first. She said, it says in Deuteronomy 28, 48, we will serve our enemies for every want and need. What other people is this? We're not the only people to be enslaved in the world, in the history of the world. We're not the only people, So that That doesn't make a lot of sense. We're not the only people to serve other people. We're not the only people to be enslaved. We're not the only ethnicity. We're not the only racial group. We're not the only nationality. We're not the only group of people to be enslaved. All right. That's the first thing. So going back to the other comment, you and I think I got to go back up. See, can I go back up? You had mentioned. You
This
said,
one.
yeah. Who else is going around hating their own seed? Women afflicted with bald scabs, diabetes, heart disease, sickle cell. Black people are not the only people that get these diseases.
Mm-mm.
You know that we're not the only people that hate our own at times. White men to a certain effect don't like white women.
They
That's where
cut like here
that's
in
where
this
you
country.
get
They
misogyny from. Where you think you get misogyny from? They disrespect their women. They don't like their women. If you go to other countries like India, India has the same problem. There are countries in the Middle East where men hate their women and hate their own seeds. You go to China. China at one point they were killing their babies if they had too many kids.
and it
If
was
that
like
ain't
in Rome, right, where they did not like the women because once they got pleasure from her, they had another mouth to feed. So that's why
Yep,
these other forms of satisfying themselves came about, and that we
exactly.
have laws protecting
Yep.
laws against it now.
Exactly. So we're not black people are the only people that get diabetes. They don't get heart disease. I can ask the same thing about
Watch my
black
600
people.
pound life.
Yeah, black people rarely get skin cancer, right? That's a kind of a European thing. So why isn't that some kind of affliction? We don't get that. So I think what we do is, again, and I think Lynn is an example of doing this. We begin with a bias in mind. We already believe what we believe, and so we go looking through the Bible or whatever it is, and we say, oh yeah, this fits the narrative. This must mean this. And Lee, it's not. Let me. I thank you for being on here. Thank
Yeah,
you
I
for the
was typing that too.
question
I'm like, thank you, Lynn, for
because
your interaction. Like, we're not coming into attack
yeah,
gloves. No, like
no,
we thank you because this is the questions that we get in the
yeah,
challenges. So thank you.
and it helps all of us to learn
Lynn is saying
because
what maybe somebody is too afraid to type. So thank you.
yep. And I think that we've all had these kind of questions. Even when I was a believer, I read this and kind of thought the same thing at times. And so I think we just have to be careful. And I think we have to kind of, again, peel back the onion and say, okay, let's kind of look at this piece by piece.
Mhm.
We're not the only people that ever been enslaved. We're not the only people that suffer from certain diseases. We're not the only people that hate our seeds. We're not the only people that mistreat our women or that hate our women. And again, this is not everybody. This is just a generalized statement. There is a culture, there is a worldwide culture of misogyny and mistreatment of women that we've always had on this planet from day one. There were, if you go to, I went to Lima, Peru, um, early 2020, right before the COVID started. And we did a tour, and it was telling us about the people there and the culture, many, many centuries ago, how they would do child sacrifice. And child sacrifices has been a part of every culture. So again, not loving your seed, we don't, as African Americans, we don't sacrifice our kids. We might talk mean to them, we might beat them, but I'm telling you of cultures that don't look like us that have literally sacrificed their kids, literally put their kids on the altar and kill their kids.
Mhm.
So that's not something, we're actually far from that. So again, let's go to the Bible kind of with an open mind, get the information, and then let's do the research. Will said in Rome, they didn't like women. Yep, Tieesha just talked about that. Um, just because there are some similarities between the stories in the Bible and black people doesn't show correlation. Kareem, absolutely. Um, there's a book, there's a couple of books I would recommend for you to take a look at. One is called the Cross and the Lynching Tree, and then the other one is called God of the Oppressed. And what it talks about is African Americans' desire to be affiliated with the suffering that occurred in the Bible and Jesus Christ, because we feel like it makes us closer to Jesus. And so that's some psychological stuff, that's some unconscious stuff that we kind of go through. So I'm not saying this is you, Lynn, but I don't want to say, but this is I'm not saying this is you, Lynn. I've met people who, including people in my family, my mother for one, who really subconsciously and sometimes consciously wanted to suffer because they felt like the more they suffered, the
Mm-hmm.
closer it brought them to Jesus, or the
Right.
more they felt worthy of going to heaven. And that's within our community. So you take that and you look at stuff in the Bible and you say, oh, yep, that's us. That's us. We're those people. We're suffering. We're supposed to be suffering because we're God chosen people and blah blah blah. It's almost kind of like we talked about when we first started about the Hebrew Israelites. We want to be part of that so-called suffering so much because I feel like it makes us closer to God and really part of that chosen people.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, next coming way, I have a question for Lynn. Lynn, do you feel like our suffering is biblical? Do you feel we're God's chosen people and we're meant to suffer on earth to be closer to Him? I love this question. I love this question because what I always ask is this: if we are God's chosen people and it is divine suffering that we're enduring, why in the hell would we serve this God? Because here's the thing, we've done no different, we've done no worse than other cultures. You're going to tell me that God is going to make us suffer, the people who have been oppressed, but yet not make the oppressor suffer?
Mm-hmm.
It's like who does this to their kids?
Right.
It's like me looking at my kid and then going across the street and get another kid and taking that kid to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever, but then looking at my kid and slapping my kid in the face and beat my kid. But this supposed to be my kid. So why would we worship a God that's gonna make us suffer? That's gonna sit there and watch us go through slavery and Jim Crow
Mm-hmm.
and segregation, everything that we're going through now, police brutality and poverty and all the other stuff. Why would I worship a God like that? If I'm supposed to be, I would listen. I would never, and I don't have any kids. I have a niece and a nephew and 7 God kids between my wife and I. I would never treat them the way that this God is supposedly treating us if we're His people. And I don't know any parent that would, not any sane parent. So that means I must be more moral than your God. Because where's the logic? Where's
Mm-hmm.
the logic? And also, why is it that we're paying for the so-called sins of many, 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 many generations before us? We're not doing anything any worse than anybody else. So why are we suffering supposedly more so than any other group? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That's a perfect question. Lead, if you have an answer, I would love to hear it and we can discuss it.
That's one thing that I've heard a lot too. Like when I was about, a preteen, and when my mom and I'll hear other older women talking about, womanhood and having their first cycle and stuff like that, and they like, well, God cursed Eve, and we got the curse. You got the curse, and it just programs like, okay, I'm cursed, and to hate yourself, and what did I do wrong? Like there's a movie called Mermaids. It has a Cher, Winona Ryder, and I
Uh-huh.
think Christina Ricci in it. And religion, belief systems, it made Winona Ryder crazy. That's one thing that I remember about that movie. I'm like, damn, it really drove her wild. It drove her crazy. And let me know if you saw the movie Mermaids, and let me know about that. One thing that's funny is right here. You can't reference the Bible at all in college essays. You will fail with a big ass F. And that is so true. I went to a Catholic university. I did. And at first, when I thought like I just needed the Bible because you had to take these religious courses, I'm like, oh crap. And I was like, okay, I have my Bible. I'm not buying the textbooks. I'm not doing any of that. It got so bad, and I was embarrassing myself so bad on the group discussion chats, I had to withdraw. And something happened. I pushed those classes toward the end of my degree. But when I came back, that in the middle of that, I left religion. I left, that belief system. And I talk about this all the time. That's when I made the dean's list. It's like you can't do that. It's like I don't know. It's just like as you were saying, those circular arguments. That's not it. You have to challenge it and come up out of there. Like so, if I couldn't use the Bible at a Catholic university in religious courses, it doesn't apply to real life.
Yeah, I talk about it in the Bible. I mean, in my book, one of the things I talk about is I talk about how religion is detrimental to us, and then in a small section I talk about um, education. And I said, because our kids, African American kids, primarily come from religious households, our point of reference is always the Bible. And until we're taught differently, we take that into life as an adult and say that, okay, the Bible is real.
Hmm.
It's we believe that. But if we're going to be competitive on a world stage, then as you just said, Tieesha, and I think somebody else mentioned, we our point of reference for education things cannot be the Bible. We cannot go into a world stage and compete with other young people
Hmm.
across the world and have the Bible be our reference. We talk about
Right.
geography, we talk about history. That we will get laughed off the stage. You won't get a degree, you won't get into a school, you won't get into a class because that's not what's commonly accepted. What's commonly accepted is the science of it all.
Hmm.
So again, we talk about that kind of stuff. We have to be careful because we want to be competitive. I want our kids to be competitive on the world
Right.
stage. You don't want your child sound like a fool on the world stage competing. Let's say your kid let's say your kid is in a really good college or university. Um, one that is, I'm not gonna say the word secular, but not a religious affiliated university or college. And they're taking a subject, whatever the subject is, and their point of reference is the Bible for
Hmm.
everything. They'll get laughed out of the classroom.
I watched a show. It came on Lifetime a couple of years ago. I was still in Hawaii around like 2014, about 2016. It was called Child Genius,
Uh-huh.
and it was like small children. They could spell words backwards and forwards, missing letters, doing the most complicated math I've ever seen in my life. Just brains just working just like that. But then when you look at our children, most of the time they're in, I mean, I'm pretty sure faith is a foundation of people's lives, but we put too much praise on that. We'll share videos of our children, and the Lord said, I'm laying hands on you, I'm gonna bless you. But these children are up here brainiacs, geniuses. I'm like, yeah, there's definitely something not
Yep.
not right in there. We're not setting them up for success. When you look at the televangelists and all that, they're there because it's a business. They're getting money, and it's nothing that makes you look better than anyone else except you are a face selling a product that's invisible, that's renewable time and time again.
Yeah, I want to, Lynn, again, thank you so much because we need more people like you to come on
Mhm.
here and give us your side and challenge all of us. I love this comment here. You said, no, I don't believe our suffering is meant to be is meant to be. I don't believe our suffering is meant to be to draw us. It just is what it is. I thought that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought you were saying that you believe that our suffering is meant to draw us. I guess I'm assuming you're saying draw us closer to God. Um, and so my response would be twofold. First is if this all powerful, all knowing God, couldn't He find a different way to draw us close to Him without us going through the suffering that we're going through? Secondly, we are historically the most religious and the most spiritual people on the face of the earth. If you trace our history and you go back, there was a time in our history where I dare say 98% of our people were Christians, believers. What was going on during that period of time? We were enslaved. It was segregation. It was Jim Crow. So, if it was meant to draw us, we were already as close as you're going to get to being to God as a collective group than any other group on the face of the earth. But yet, your God still see purpose in our suffering. If this is what you believe, and people who believe what you believe, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me at all whatsoever. What it is, I think, and again, it's not a slight to you. What it is, though, I think, is us making an excuse for our collective conditioning. Not only making an excuse, but coming to acceptance of it and twisting it to where it becomes something favorable. You notice, so the one thing that black people have always done is that we've always taken something that is meant to be bad or negative for us and twisted it and made it good for us.
Mhm.
Language, the
There's
end
actually a
world.
song, a gospel song
Yeah,
that's saying
yeah,
everything the devil did, God's turned around for my good or something like that. Yep.
exactly. So this is no different. We've taken our collective condition over the last 400 years or whatever, and we twisted it and say, well, this is good. This is meant to be because it's what God wants to do, or it's divinely inspired, or it's something from God. Even to the point where you hear people, especially older people. I don't hear a lot of young people, but older people will say, if it wasn't for slavery, we wouldn't have Jesus. If and listen, I'm not I'm not Will Smith, so I don't slap people, at least not since I've been an adult. But when I hear someone say that, it makes me want to just slap them, because that is to me the absolute dumbest thing that a black person can say regarding slavery and religion. I think it is the absolute dumbest thing that can be said. So yeah, but again, thank you so much for your comments. I see the other ones. Do we have who else? We got other people.
One thing I wanted to point out, I think I have an assignment. Y'all know I love when I'm assigned movies to watch, and I have a movie. Speaking of that, I want to go live tomorrow. Please don't hold me to it if the storm is not that bad, but I want to go live pretty soon. I want to talk about this movie called Surviving the Game.
Okay.
Go check that out. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Surviving the Game. It has
Surviving the
Ice
game.
T. It has a Ice T, Charles Dutton, and a few other people. I don't quite remember that. I think Gary Busey's in it, but yes,
Okay.
it's an older film, Surviving the Game. Watch that, and you'll be right in time for what I'm going to talk about. I think I'll do it Saturday. If not, I'll do it over the weekend. I'm gonna hold myself to it, okay? But yeah, Surviving the Game. But the Onk said there's a 2001 movie called The Body. It's a movie about the resurrection,
I
and that
gotta
will
take a
take
look at
place.
that. The Unk. Thank you so much. I gotta take a look at
Yes,
that. And I love the name, by the way, the Unk.
yes,
Yeah, I got the body 2001. Gotta take a look at that.
The Body.
Lou to you. Appreciate the comments. Appreciate the comments. Thank you so much. Thank all of you guys.
Yes,
Listen,
thank
this
you.
Pie in the Sky is only promoted to the US. Everyone else get theirs today, here and there. You know, that's another thing. Again, we have to think critical about things. Um, we're the only people that's not getting ours. You know,
Mhm,
we're the only people that's told wait until you die, you're gonna get you into
mhm,
heaven, or at least we're the only people that believe that. Again, then that becomes a justification for our collective failure. Because what we're saying is that, so and this is why this is dangerous. When our young people start believing this, then they stop trying to be successful. If you tell someone that this is your, or you imply that this is your lot in life, and you select accept this because this is your divine mission in life, to be in the condition that you're in, then people who are devout believers will stop trying to be better, stop trying to do better, because they believe this is somehow divinely orchestrated by God. And so we stop. So this is extremely dangerous for our kids to believe that this is how we're supposed to be. This is who we are because the
mhm.
Bible says this is what we're supposed to be. It is dangerous. It is dangerous to our society. It is dangerous to our community. It is dangerous to our kids. Is one of the things is it is the reason when people ask me why do I do what I'm doing, and they say, well, let people believe the way they want to believe. No, this stuff hurts us. This stuff affects our mind. Our mind controls everything else. If we begin with a limited mind, if we begin with a mind that says I'm oppressed because God says I should be oppressed, and so I should accept it. I'm not saying we're saying that out loud, but we're saying it subconsciously in our mind and through our actions and through our belief system. It stymies us as a community. It stymies us. It stops our kids. And so oftentimes, notice how many of our kids, young kids, are moving away from the traditional religions of their mothers and grandmothers and fathers and grandfathers, because that's part of it. They don't like, they're not going to accept being comfortable in
Mhm.
suffering and struggling. They will not accept that. You know why? Because they go to school with kids who don't look like them, that got everything.
Yep.
And they're asking themselves, why don't I have that? And they're not going to accept us telling our kids that this is from God or this is the position that we're in because we're suffering because we walked away. Whatever the reason, whatever the excuses that we give, our kids are not accepting that. And bravo to them. I'm glad that they're not.
Yes, that's one thing I said as well. And like as some businesses, they're open on Sundays when majority of us are in church. We shut our business down because of the Lord. They know they got their doors
Yep.
open, making money. Shout out to per, Pestilent Heretic. I was surprised to learn that gospel music started here in Georgia. Yes, make sure if you haven't watched it, go check out our video on the worst gospel songs ever.
Yeah,
We gave a
yeah. It was a
history
few weeks ago. Yeah.
on gospel music and where it came from, moving up. And also to another channel, check out Professor Black Truth. If you haven't watched his moment of truth, his daily upload today, I was listening to that as I was driving, and he was speaking about, how jazz music in New Orleans. I was just there. Actually, I wore this shirt in New Orleans, but I was surprised. So I'm like, hold on, and this is a sidebar real quick. I'm like, how come here in New Orleans, I'm walking around, there's very limited mention of some of my favorite jazz musicians. Jazz would not be jazz without them. The Marsalis brothers, they're from New Orleans. I'm like, I didn't see anything. You
Yep.
know, we took a walk over to Louis Armstrong Park. There was a statue for him. There's a statue for Mahalia Jackson. But I'm like, I haven't seen anything for the Marsalis brothers, and they are alive and well, the kindest men you will ever meet. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And when I learned today about the racist roots of jazz and how it was suppressed in New Orleans of all places, it's like, wow, okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, go check out that video. What else do we have? Lynn, also she said she appreciates the dialogue as well. And I think Lynn, to get her response and questions in real time, could you email us? Email me at Tieesha at info@tieesha.com, or you go to tieesha.com and just fill out the contact form. Or how can she contact you? Because this would be great to get like live questions right there back and forth
Yep.
versus the delay with comments and stuff like that.
Let me address this because I think this is
Mhm.
just extremely important. Her comment. Lynn says it was a result of our ancestors worshiping other gods, breaking the laws of God. So that's what you believe is why we're in the condition that we're in. So understand. Okay, so let's go back. We are, when I say we, Africans, we're the original people on the planet, right? Uh, Christianity is roughly 3,000 years old. There were many other religions prior to Christianity. There were many other spiritual practices prior to Christianity. Um, you, when people say what you just said, it is a result of not understanding, not reading, not understanding the history of religion. Europeans took everything that we practiced in Africa and told us that it was bad and that it was wrong. Even voodoo, which some people call voodoo, but voodoo. I sat through a presentation about voodoo from a historian, and they talked about. I already knew some of the stuff, but they talked about it. Voodoo is not anything that we think it is, that most of us think it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not demonic. It's not bad. It's not evil. The first thing that they did to us, Lynn, and Lynn's comment is an example of that, is that they, being Europeans, told us, our ancestors in Africa, that everything that we were doing was bad, was wrong, was evil, and was demonic. That's the first thing that they did. And so, Lynn, I challenge you to read more books about our history. The Book of the Dead is a good one. Here's my only caveat about the Book of the Dead is that me personally, I think that it's kind of a hard read. I think it's kind of advanced for someone who's just now getting into let me understand more about the history of my ancestors and our spirituality and all of that. It is a great book, but what you will find is you will see where everything came from us spiritually, and so from that standpoint. So that is a great book. the oppressed, God of the oppressed, and the cross of the lynching tree. Two really good books. Let's be careful in dismissing and downplaying our ancestors and
Mm-hmm.
what they did and what they practiced in their spirituality. Everything that Christianity had came from other religions, including what our ancestors practiced.
Right.
Everything. There is nothing in the Bible in Christianity that is original. There is nothing. All right. So we have to understand that. And so things came from in Christianity came from other practices. And so we have to understand that. So before we dismiss and say that we're being punished because we left, we how long did we exist prior to the slave trade? The earliest modern human beings are anywhere from 200 to 300,000 years old. So we existed in our own world, doing our own practice, our own spiritual practices, working with nature, whatever our people across the continent practice, long before this concept of the Abrahamic God and Jesus Christ came along. And we
Mm-hmm.
had no issues, right? So if you want to say that we're suffering because we walked away from God, you can easily reverse that and say we may be suffering because we decided to believe in this God. Because prior to that, we were fine. And don't let Europeans or other people tell you that we were, not civilized. And the oldest school on the planet, oldest university, is in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
we taught Plato and Socrates and all those people what they know. They came and learned from Africans. Mathematics. We taught Europeans how to bathe. We taught them how to clean themselves.
Yep.
We taught them all that stuff. So I'm sorry, I'm reading what the Unc is writing. I'm reading a book called The Historical Origins of Christianity by Dr. Walter Williams. Good deal. And I would love to hear have you come back and tell us about it. Uh,
Absolutely.
absolutely. But
So
yeah, so again, we do this. Again, Lynn, thank you for your side. Please join us every week because we need to hear the other side.
yes.
That's how we grow. That's how we learn. I'm not saying that I'm right about everything. I'm not saying that you're wrong about everything. I think we can learn. There's something that we can learn from each other. My only caveat to that is that I like for all of us to read, and if we already read it, let's read more. Let's have an open mind. Let's really dig deep into our culture and where we came from. What our ancestors practiced and all of that before we kind of make these statements and kind of take Christianity for the all to be all, which it
Right.
really isn't. But that's what we tend to do here.
And
But
we
yeah,
definitely welcome y'all. If y'all have topics, if you have questions, that you want us to, form a video around it, that'd be great too. Because what we're doing is just, coming from Willie's book and also from some notes that I had and some things we'll see on social media. And if you want like your quick videos to discussing certain topics, you're also on TikTok. So can you tell us about your book and as well as your other social media platforms, what you do as Mr. Save to Sane?
okay. Let me before I say this, I love Lynn. I don't know Lynn. I love Lynn like a sister. Lynn said I'm going to read
Lynn
some more.
left about seven
Lynn,
seven
she
years ago.
said,
Good.
yep.
So yeah. So
She said I'm going to read some more. If nothing else comes out of any of this
please share with
for
us too.
all of us, is that we read more,
Mhm.
myself included.
And
So I
talk to
thank
each
you,
other because
Lynn,
that's
and
a
talk to
great
each
thing.
other.
When we
Yep.
talk to each other, we don't like condemn you to hell and cuss you out and wish bad things on you. It's like, yeah, let's break out of what we've been just in. And this is a good place because many of us don't get to talk to people. Like I don't get to like I think the most I've talked this whole week has been in this broadcast. So I think I need y'all. So yes, you're definitely
Yeah.
welcome. Lynn, I welcome you. If you could send me an email and I'll see about getting you on so that you can ask questions like in real time. And then also if you want to join Brother Willie, I know he's going to also have some live streams on his channel as well, which is Safe to Saint. So you can
Yep.
talk one-on-one with him because he's great. He welcomes the questions. So that is your best bet.
Well, it only makes you better. And so
Absolutely.
so My channel is from Save to Sane. Save the number 2 Sane on YouTube. Where else can you follow me? The other stuff, TikTok is, I think, is well, Instagram. I got to get this stuff right. Right. I do know
Don't
my
worry.
YouTube page, but my TikTok is, I think, is well, Instagram is Willie Cartwright 1906. And I post a lot of memes about religion on that. Facebook is WC O'Neal, WC and then ONEAL. So I think, yeah, so I think that's all. But definitely follow me, the YouTube channel. If you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me. You can leave a comment. I look at all the comments. We read all the comments. We get the comments. Even if you catch me on Facebook, you can send me a message or through Instagram or whatever. But yeah, we're doing this. Much appreciation to Sister Tieesha for what she's doing. Tieesha, she's a jack of all trades. She talks about many, many topics.
Yes.
She is a wonderful resource that we should utilize. More importantly, we should be supporting. She has her things going on. Support her, support her, support her. We need more people like her on here. And thank all of you guys for coming on. Thanks for the questions. This, to me, this is the best part. I love being interactive because I love learning. I love speaking to people. I love us exchanging, having the comments. Because if it's something that I thought maybe I was wrong about, or I learned something, I'm gonna go back and do the research. I'm gonna find a book. Thank you for the books that we've got to read that somebody gave us, as well as the movies. So I've got to check these movies out and get me a couple more books as well.
Yeah, that's one thing. Like Willie's channel, Save the Saint, is about one topic. Okay, my channel is just all over the place. Like people get on me, and it's like, I'm thinking. Well, not that I'm thinking. I kind of know. That's why like YouTube doesn't know who to advertise my channel to, which is great because I'm really not in it to be this. Okay, I want to have 1 million subscribers, things like that. It'd be nice. It'd be great. But however, those who have been solid with me, I'm here for you. And if only one person tuned in, I'm gonna give you everything I got. Quality content and stuff like that. So yeah, over here, talk about a little bit of everything. And because it's starting to warm up outside, I want to start vlogging more, exploring Georgia. And shout out to everybody who's, in Georgia, want to visit and things like that. So you're going to see more as the weather warms up, different types of content. But this is my foundation. That first video I did it back in 2016, or I think it was 16, why I left Christianity. And that's where a lot of people found me. And for those who've been rocking with me, I haven't uploaded this kind of content in a while. So that's why I'm kind of hitting heavy with it now, because I'm like, I'm overdue. So I thank you for helping me get this content out and all the new connections that I've made. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, someone said pollen in Georgia now. Yeah, it is. I wear contact lenses, and so the pollen gets in my eye and it burns me. Other than that, I don't guess it. I still sneeze and stuff, but it's not that bad. It's just getting to my contact lens and it hurts and it's painful. So yeah, a lot of pollen in Georgia. Oh,
check my Instagram stories. I wore this product called a Under the Weather Pod today. I ordered it last year. And it was because like I really hate wearing a mask. I really am. Y'all know I don't like the face panties. I have, cystic acne. So I don't like anything on my face because the breakouts are painful. And I wore it today because I had to go to the VA. And I'm like, make me put on face panties, take my temperature, all this stuff. So I put on my Under the Weather Pod at the doors. I walked in and didn't tell me to put on the mask. I had on my pod. You'll see it in my story. And I may just upload a quick video on it. But yeah, that keeps everything from blowing in your face and you're just protected. So it's your own personal bubble. I love it.
Yeah, this has been great. Guys, this has been wonderful. Thank you guys so much. We'll have another topic next week. And,
next Wednesday.
And so when is Easter? Is it what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
I don't know, because it changes every year. So
it does change every year. And since I stopped going to church in 2015, I don't keep away.
Well, taxes came out.
Yeah,
taxes are out. So the suits and the candy is already in the store. So we'll find out. But we have a great topic in store. One topic that I could think off top. What was it? We're gonna talk about that, the resurrection and Passover and all that.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about that. Jesus did not suffer for you, or Jesus did not suffer You know,
I
when
said,
you
what's Easter?
yeah, exactly.
European
That was for
holidays.
Easter. That was for Easter. So that was gonna make a lot of people mad because
Yes.
our people they they hear the Jesus story, the story of the Passion story, and they break out in tears and flip over benches and stuff. But you talk to them about their ancestors and what their blood relatives went through,
Hmm.
being enslaved and lynched and beat. Not one tear, not one. They don't shed one tear. So we're gonna talk about who really died for you.
Right.
That's
Oh,
probably
that's
what we should.
I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, who really died for you? That's really how we should to phrase it. So absolutely. But this has been good. We appreciate you guys. I'm out. I'm done. I'm good. You pick
Yes.
up the book. Amazon. Oh, we didn't talk about it. Okay, really quick. You can pick up my book on Amazon from Save to Sane. What is it? My journey away from Christianity and why Christianity has been detrimental to the African American community. You can find it by that title, or you can find it by Willie Cartwright. You see the name? That's me. You can get it on Amazon. If you want me to autograph it, then you can send me a message and get a message to me. I'll send you my Cash App, and I will send you a signed copy of it. I guess one day it'll be really, really, really big, and you'll have a signed copy of it. But absolutely. But if not, then you can pick it up on Amazon. And I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Perfect.
Tieesha. Thank all of you guys.
We'll see y'all later. Have a
See y'all
good one.
later.